A mistyped grocery email reaches a tech CEO instead of a delivery app. He shows up at her door with the groceries she couldn't afford. She was just trying to survive. He was trying to feel again. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The November wind rattled the windows of Noelle Carter's small apartment. She pulled her cardigan tighter and glanced at the clock. 7:42 p.m. She'd meant to order groceries hours ago. "Jack, you okay in there?" she called out, her fingers hovering over her laptop keyboard. "All good." Her brother's voice came from the bedroom, followed by the sound of his favorite game show on TV. Noelle sighed and rubbed her eyes. At 29, she felt decades older. Since their parents' car accident 2 years ago, she'd become her 24-year-old brother's full-time caregiver. Jack's muscular dystrophy meant he needed help with almost everything, and while his mind was sharp as ever, his body betrayed him more each year. "We're out of almost everything," she muttered, pulling up the delivery app on her laptop. Her work-from-home job as a virtual assistant paid the bills, but just barely. Every penny was accounted for, every purchase planned. She began typing her list quickly: eggs, rice, apples, almond milk, adult diapers, chocolate, candles. The last 2 items were small luxuries. The chocolate was for Jack, dark with sea salt, his favorite. The candles were for her to make the apartment feel less dreary on long evenings. Noelle yawned and hit send. A moment later, her phone buzzed with a notification. She frowned, tapping on the screen. Message delivery failed. She peered at her laptop and groaned. In her hurry, she'd typed the wrong email address, sending her grocery list to a random stranger instead of the delivery app. She quickly fixed the error and resubmitted the order, then shuffled to check on Jack. "Hey, buddy, dinner's gonna be whatever we can scrape together tonight. Groceries won't come till tomorrow." Jack smiled from his specialized bed. His thin face lit up despite the circumstances. "We could have peanut butter crackers and call it a fancy appetizer." Noelle laughed, always looking on the bright side. "Someone has to," he replied, his eyes crinkling. Across town, in a sleek, high-rise office, Daniel Reeves stared at his computer screen. The email subject line read, "Grocery order for Thursday delivery." Daniel frowned. It wasn't meant for him, that much was obvious. But something kept him from deleting it immediately. The simplicity of the list struck him. Eggs, rice, apples, almond milk, adult diapers, chocolate, candles, a real person's needs. Not corporate jargon or investment proposals, or the endless reports he reviewed daily as CEO of Next Step Technologies. "Mr. Reeve," his assistant poked her head in. "Your 8 o'clock cancelled. Would you like me to move up tomorrow's meetings?" "No," Daniel said, still looking at the email. "What time is it?" "Almost 8, sir." Daniel, 30, ran a hand through his dark hair. He'd been at the office since 5 a.m. Again, the company he'd built from nothing now employed over 200 people. Success had come quickly, but at a price. His apartment felt like a hotel room, somewhere he slept, not somewhere he lived. "I'm heading out," he said suddenly. His assistant looked surprised. "But the quarterly reports can wait until morning." 20 minutes later, Daniel found himself in a grocery store, something he hadn't done in months. His cleaning service stocked. His fridge. His meals were either delivered or eaten at restaurants with clients. He looked down at his phone, where he'd copied the list from the email. Adult diapers. That item stood out. Someone taking care of an elderly parent. A sick relative. Daniel grabbed a cart and began filling it methodically. When he reached the chocolate aisle, he hesitated. What kind? He grabbed several varieties. At the checkout, the cashier raised her eyebrows at the odd assortment, especially when she saw his expensive suit. "Special delivery," he said simply. It took some work, but he traced the email back to an address on the outskirts of town. By the time he pulled his Tesla into the parking lot of the rundown apartment complex, it was nearly 9:30 p.m. Daniel sat in his car for a moment, questioning his sanity. What was he doing here? He could have ignored the email, he should have, but something in that simple list had tugged at him, reminding him of days long past, of shopping for his mother and sister during those final months of Lily's illness, when every small comfort mattered. Before he could change his mind, He grabbed the bags and walked to apartment 14B. Noelle was scraping the bottom of a jar of pasta sauce when the doorbell rang. She froze. They never had visitors, especially not this late. "Jack, are you expecting anyone?" she called out. "The publisher's clearinghouse?" He joked. She wiped her hands on her worn jeans and approached the door cautiously, peering through the peephole. A tall man in an expensive-looking coat stood there holding several grocery bags. "Who is it?" she called through the door. "My name is Daniel Reeve. I think I received your grocery list by mistake." Noelle's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God, the email!" She cracked the door open, chain still in place. "I'm so sorry about that. You didn't have to—" Her words died as she got a better look at him. She recognized his face from business magazines and local news. Daniel Reeve, tech entrepreneur. What was he doing at her door? "I brought your groceries," he said simply, his voice deeper in person than she'd expected. "That's damn incredibly kind, but you really shouldn't have." She was mortified. "I can't accept—" "Please," he said. "I wanted to." Something in his expression, a quiet sincerity, made her hesitate. Then a crash from the kitchen reminded her of the half-cooked dinner. "Oh no." She closed the door, unlatched the chain, and reopened it. "Sorry, come in if you want. I need to save dinner." Daniel followed her inside, taking in the modest apartment. It was small but clean, with mismatched furniture and a few family photos on the walls. The smell of burning tomato sauce filled the air. In the kitchen, Noelle was frantically scraping a pot, trying to save what little sauce remained. "Can I help?" Daniel asked, setting the bags on the counter. "Not unless you can make dinner appear out of thin air," she said, then immediately felt bad for her sharpness. "I'm sorry, it's been a long day." "Sis, everything okay?" Jack called from the other room. "Fine," she called back, then looked at Daniel. "My brother," she explained quietly. "He has muscular dystrophy. I take care of him." Daniel nodded, understanding. The adult diapers on the list now. Without asking, he began unpacking the groceries. "I could make dinner," he offered. "I'm no chef, but I can manage eggs and rice." Noelle stared at him. "You're Daniel Reeve. You run a tech company worth millions, and you want to cook dinner in my kitchen." A small smile touched his lips. "I'm just a guy who received your grocery list, and yes, I want to help." "Why?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. Daniel paused, a carton of eggs in his hand. "I don't really know," he admitted. "It just felt like the right thing to do." Before Noelle could respond, Jack called out again. "Noelle, is someone here?" "Be right there," she answered, then turned to Daniel. "That's my cue. If you're serious about cooking, kitchen's all yours. I need to help Jack get ready for dinner." Daniel watched her go, then rolled up his sleeves. In the quiet kitchen, he felt more at peace than he had in months. Here he wasn't CEO Daniel Reeve. He was just a guy making dinner. He found a clean pan and began making a simple fried rice with eggs, adding the freshly purchased ingredients. As he cooked, he could hear Noelle's gentle voice from the other room helping her brother. The domesticity of it all, the sounds, the smells, brought back memories. His own family's kitchen, before everything fell apart, before Lily got sick, before his parents' divorce, before he buried himself in work to escape the pain. 20 minutes later, Noelle returned, pushing Jack's wheelchair. She'd helped him change into a clean t-shirt, and his hair was freshly combed. "Something smells amazing," Jack said, his bright eyes landing on Daniel. "And we have company." "Jack, this is Daniel. He brought our groceries. The ones you sent to the wrong place?" Jack grinned. "Nice to meet you, Daniel. I'm the brother who keeps life interesting around here." Daniel smiled, finding Jack's directness refreshing. "Nice to meet you too. Dinner's ready if you're hungry." "Starving," Jack declared. "And curious, Noelle doesn't usually invite strangers for dinner." "Jack," Noelle warned, but there was affection in her voice. They gathered around the small table, and Daniel served the simple meal. For the first few minutes, they ate in awkward silence. "So," Jack finally said, "you run that tech company, right? The one making those assistive devices?" Daniel looked up in surprise. "Yes, next step. We're working on affordable mobility technology." "I've read about your stuff," Jack said. "The exoskeleton prototype looks incredible. It's still in development, but we're making progress. Noelle watched the exchange with interest. Technology that could help people like Jack was exactly what her brother followed obsessively online. So of all the CEOs to accidentally email, she'd managed to find one whose work actually mattered to them. As dinner continued, the awkwardness faded. Jack kept the conversation flowing, asking intelligent questions about Daniel's work. Noelle mostly listened, studying their unexpected guest. He was handsome, certainly, with his dark hair and serious eyes, but there was something else about him, a quietness, a sadness perhaps, that seemed at odds with his success. "So why did you really come?" Noelle asked during a lull in conversation. "I mean, most people would have just deleted the email." Daniel set down his fork. "Honestly, I'm not entirely sure." He paused. "Your list was so real. In my world, everything is metrics and projections and growth strategies. I guess I wanted to connect with something authentic." "Well, we're about as real as it gets," Jack laughed. "Broke, struggling, but still kicking." "Jack," Noelle said softly. "It's okay," Daniel said. "I appreciate the honesty." After dinner, Daniel insisted on washing the dishes while Noelle helped Jack get ready for bed. When she returned to the kitchen, Daniel was drying his hands on a dish towel. "Thank you," she said, "for everything. The groceries, dinner." "It was nothing," he replied. "Not to us," she said quietly. Their eyes met, and something passed between them, a moment of understanding, of connection. "I should go," Daniel said, breaking the silence. "Of course, you must be busy." At the door, Daniel hesitated. "Would it be okay if I came back sometime, maybe bring dinner or just visit?" Noelle was taken aback by the request. "Why would you want to?" Daniel seemed to struggle with the answer. "I haven't enjoyed an evening like this in a very long time. No agenda, no expectations, just being present." Noelle thought about all the reasons to say no. He was practically a stranger. He lived in a different world. But there had been something genuine in the way he'd spoken with Jack, in the way he'd helped without condescension. "Okay," she found herself saying, "but call first next time." Daniel smiled, a real smile that transformed his serious face. "I will." After he left, Noelle leaned against the closed door, her mind racing. What had just happened? And why did she feel like her carefully constructed routine had just been wonderfully disrupted? Over the next 2 weeks, Daniel returned 3 times. Each visit followed the same pattern. He'd bring food, they'd eat together, he'd talk with Jack about technology or sports, and then he'd help clean up before leaving. Noelle couldn't figure him out. He never mentioned his wealth, never tried to impress them. He just showed up, present and attentive in a way few people had been since her parents died. On his 4th visit, he brought books for Jack and a small plant for Noelle. "You mentioned you miss having green things around," he explained when she looked at him questioningly. "I did," she said, surprised he'd remembered such a small detail from their conversations. That night, after a simple meal of takeout Chinese food, Daniel seemed reluctant to leave. He helped Jack with his evening routine, showing no discomfort with the more intimate aspects of caregiving. Later, after Jack had gone to bed, Noelle found Daniel standing by the window, looking out at the city lights. "Penny, for your thoughts?" she asked. He turned to her, his expression unreadable. "I was just thinking about how peaceful it is here." Noelle laughed softly. "Peaceful?" "Our ancient heater rattles all night. The neighbor's dog barks at shadows, and Jack's breathing machine hums constantly." "That's not the kind of noise I'm talking about," Daniel said. "In my world, there's constant pressure, expectations. Here, it's just life, real life." Noelle studied him. "You know, for someone who has everything, you seem awfully drawn to those who have very little. Maybe because you have what matters," he said quietly. The next morning, Noelle found a small note tucked beneath a carton of strawberries Daniel had brought. She unfolded it with curious fingers and read, "You remind me what it means to care for someone again. Please let me stay a little longer." Noelle stood in her kitchen, the note trembling in her hands, wondering what secrets Daniel Reeve was carrying, and why, of all the people in the world, he'd chosen to share them with her. Noelle couldn't stop thinking about Daniel's note. She tucked it into her pocket, reading it several times throughout the day while working on her virtual assistant tasks. You remind me what it means to care for someone again. Please let me stay a little longer." What did he mean, and why did those simple words make her heart flutter? "Noelle, can I get some help?" Jack called from the living room where he'd been, watching TV. She quickly put the note away and went to her brother. "What's up, bud? My back's killing me. Can you help me adjust?" Noelle carefully helped shift Jack's position in his wheelchair, gently supporting his thin frame. At 24, Jack had the mind of a brilliant young man trapped in a body that failed. "Him more each month?" "Better," she asked, brushing his hair from his forehead. "Much?" "So?" Jack grinned mischievously. "Are we going to talk about Rich Guy and his note?" Noelle's eyes widened. "How did you—" "I saw you find it this morning. I might be in a wheelchair, but my eyes work just fine." "It's nothing," she said, feeling her cheeks warm. "He's just being nice." Nice is bringing groceries once. Nice is not coming back 4 times and leaving secret notes. Jack's expression turned serious. "He likes you, sis. Don't be ridiculous. Men like Daniel Reeve don't fall for women like me." "Women like you?" Jack repeated. "You mean smart, strong, beautiful women who keep everything together despite impossible odds?" Noelle felt tears prick her eyes. "Stop it." "Why? Because I'm telling the truth." Jack reached for her hand. "Ever since Mom and Dad died, you've put your whole life on hold for me. When was the last time you did anything for yourself?" "Taking care of you isn't a burden," she insisted. "I didn't say it was. But it shouldn't be your whole life either." Jack squeezed her hand. "He seems like a good guy. Different from what I expected someone like him to be." Noelle nodded, remembering how Daniel had helped Jack the night before, showing infinite patience while helping him brush his teeth and get into bed. No disgust, no pity, just quiet assistance. "There's something sad about him," she said softly. "Like he's running from something." "Maybe he is," Jack replied, "but he keeps running right to our door." The doorbell rang later that evening, making Noelle jump. She wasn't expecting Daniel. It had only been a day since his last visit. She opened the door to find him standing there, still in his work suit, but with the tie loosened. He looked tired. "I should have called," he said immediately. "But I was driving by and—" He held up a bag. "I brought ice cream. Bad day." Noelle couldn't help but smile. "Yours or mine?" "Mine," he admitted. "Board meeting. Investors. The usual." She stepped aside to let him in. "Well, ice cream is always welcome. Here." Jack brightened when he saw Daniel. "Hey, what flavor did you bring?" 3, actually, couldn't decide. Daniel pulled out containers of chocolate chip, strawberry, and vanilla. "A man who understands ice cream is a friend for life," Jack declared. They sat in the small living room, eating directly from the containers. Daniel had loosened up over his visits, his corporate stiffness gradually giving way to a more relaxed manner. "So what happened at this board meeting?" Noelle asked. Daniel sighed. "The investors want faster results on our adaptive technology. They're pushing to cut corners on safety to get products to market. But your exoskeletons could help people like me," Jack said. "You can't rush that stuff." "Exactly." Daniel pointed his spoon at Jack. "That's what I told them. These aren't just products. They're life-changing devices for real people." Noelle watched Daniel as he spoke passionately about his company's mission. His face transformed, showing glimpses of the person beneath the CEO exterior. "Why did you start Next Step?" she asked suddenly. Daniel's spoon paused halfway to his mouth. He set it down slowly. "That's a long story." "We've got time," Jack said. Daniel looked between them, then took a deep breath. "I had a sister, Lily. She had a rare form of muscular atrophy." The room went quiet. Jack exchanged a look with Noelle. "She died when she was 16. I was 18. Daniel's voice was steady but quiet. "The last few years of her life, she lost almost all mobility. The equipment was expensive, difficult to use, and frankly dehumanizing." Noelle felt a lump form in her throat. "After college, I used my computer science degree to start developing better solutions, more dignified ones." Daniel looked at Jack. "Ones that would have let my sister live more independently." "I'm so sorry," Noelle whispered. Daniel shook his head. "It was 12 years ago, but sometimes it feels like yesterday." He paused. "That's why your email hit me so hard. The adult diapers on your list. It reminded me of shopping for Lily, Jack leaned forward. So that's why you keep coming back? Because I remind you of your sister. Daniel looked uncomfortable. At first maybe, but now. His eyes flicked to Noelle, then back to Jack. I come back because for the first time in years, I feel like I'm just a person, not a CEO or an investor or whatever label people put on me. And because you two are the most real people I've met in a long time. The sincerity in his voice was unmistakable. Well, Jack said, breaking the tension, since we're being all honest and stuff, you should know I've been Googling you. Jack! Noelle was mortified. What? We let a stranger into our house. I wanted to make sure he wasn't an axe murderer. Daniel laughed, the sound warming the room. And what did you find? That you're loaded, for one thing, Jack said bluntly, but also that you fund a foundation for families affected by muscular disorders. You donate to research. You've got patents you've made open source, so other companies can build affordable medical equipment. Noelle looked at Daniel with new eyes. You never mentioned any of that. Daniel shrugged. It's not something I advertise. Why not? It's amazing, she said, because I don't want to be thanked for it. I do it for Lily. The evening continued, the conversation shifting to lighter topics. Daniel asked about their parents, and Noelle shared stories of their life before the accident. For once, the memories brought smiles instead of pain. When Jack began to yawn, Noelle helped him get ready for bed. Daniel waited in the living room, looking at the family photos on the wall. That's us at the beach, Noelle said when she returned. The summer before the accident. You all look happy, Daniel observed. We were. She stood beside him, looking at her parents' smiling faces. It was quick, at least, the crash. They didn't suffer. But you have, Daniel said quietly. Noelle didn't. Deny it. Life goes on. You either move with it or get left behind. Is that what you're doing? Moving forward. Her smile faltered. I'm standing still, just trying not to drown. Daniel turned to face her fully. You deserve more than that, Noelle. Do I? Some days I'm not so sure. Her voice was barely above, a whisper. Without thinking, Daniel reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The gentle touch made her breath catch. I should go, he said, dropping his hand. It's late. At the door, he hesitated. About the note. I found it, she admitted. I meant it, he said simply. Being here, it helps me remember who I was before grief and business consumed everything. And who was that? Someone who knew how to care, how to be present. He looked at her intently. Someone who wasn't afraid to feel. The moment stretched between them, full of unspoken words. Good night, Daniel, she finally said. Good night, Noelle. After he left, Noelle leaned against the door, her heart racing. Whatever was happening between them felt both fragile and significant. The next morning, Noelle woke to her phone ringing. It was her boss at the virtual assistant company. Noelle, we need to talk, he began, and she instantly knew it was bad news. We're downsizing. I'm sorry, but we're letting go of half our staff. But I've been with the company for 3 years, she protested. I know, you'll get 2 weeks severance. I'm truly sorry. After hanging up, Noelle sat on the edge of her bed, trying not to panic. Their finances were already stretched thin. Jack's medications, the special equipment, the rent, they barely made ends meet with her full-time job. Everything okay? Jack called from the other room. She took a deep breath and forced a smile into her voice. Fine, just a work call. She couldn't tell him, not yet. She needed a plan first. By afternoon, Noelle had applied for 6 jobs online. But the responses were discouraging. Most employers wanted in-office work, which she couldn't manage with Jack's care needs. When Daniel called that evening, she almost didn't answer. Hey, she said, trying to sound normal. You okay? You sound off. Just tired. She couldn't bring herself to tell him about losing her job. His pity was the last thing she wanted. I was thinking of bringing dinner tomorrow. Jack mentioned he likes Italian. Actually, tomorrow's not good, she lied. We've got appointments. There was a pause on the line. Noelle, what's wrong? Nothing. I'm fine, just busy. Okay, he said, clearly not believing her. Call me if you need anything. After they hung up, Noelle felt tears well up. She'd pushed away the one person who might understand, but her pride couldn't bear the thought of Daniel seeing just how precarious their situation really was. 3 days passed without word from Daniel. Noelle threw herself into job hunting while caring for Jack, her worry growing with each passing day. On the 4th day, the apartment building manager knocked on her door. "Ms. Carter, I hate to do this, but you're late on rent again." "I know," she said. "I just need a little more time. I've given you extensions twice now. The owner's breathing down my neck." "Please," she said, desperation creeping into her voice. "Just 1 more week." He sighed. "1 week, then I'll have no choice." After he left, Noelle sank to the floor, her back against the door. She'd kept it together for so long, but now everything was falling apart. "Noelle?" Jack's worried voice came from the living room. "Who was that?" She quickly wiped her tears and stood up. "Just the manager. Everything's fine." But when she entered the living room, Jack's expression told her he wasn't fooled. "Stop lying to me," he said firmly. "I heard everything. We're about to be evicted, aren't we?" "I'll figure something out," she insisted. "Like what?" "You've been on your laptop for days. You lost your job, didn't you?" Noelle nodded, unable to deny it any longer. "Why didn't you tell me?" Jack asked, hurt evident in his voice. "Because it's my job to worry, not yours," she said. "That's bull," Jack said fiercely. "We're in this together. Always have been." Noelle knelt beside his wheelchair and rested her head on his lap. "I don't know what to do, Jack, I really don't." He stroked her hair gently. "We need help. And lucky for us, we know someone who could help." She looked up sharply. "No, absolutely not." "Why not?" "Daniel has the means." "I am not asking him for money," she interrupted. "That's not why he's been coming here." "Then why has he been coming?" Noelle stood up, pacing the small room. "I don't know, because he's lonely? Because we remind him of his sister? But I refuse to become a charity case. This isn't about pride, Noelle. This is about survival." Before she could respond, there was another knock at the door. She opened it to find Daniel standing there, holding a large paper bag. "I know you said you were busy," he began, "but I thought you might still need to eat." The sight of him, concerned, patient, bringing food when they had almost nothing left, broke something in Noelle. A sob escaped her before she could stop it. "Noelle?" Alarm filled his face. "What's wrong?" "Everything," she whispered, as the tears she'd been holding back for days finally fell. Daniel stepped inside quickly, closing the door behind him. He set the food down on the nearest surface and guided Noelle to the couch, his face etched with concern. "Tell me what's happening," he said gently, handing her a tissue from a box on the coffee table. Noelle wiped her eyes, embarrassed by her breakdown. "It's nothing. I'm just tired." "She lost her job," Jack called from across the room. When Noelle shot him a betrayed look, he shrugged. "He deserves to know." Daniel's expression shifted from concern to understanding. "When?" 3 days ago." Noelle admitted. "The company downsized. And there's more," Jack added. "The building manager was just here. We're behind on rent." "Jack, please," Noelle pleaded. "No, Noelle, we need help." Jack turned to Daniel. "She's been trying to find a new job, but nobody wants to hire someone who needs to work from home to take care of me." Daniel looked between the siblings, his mind clearly working. "How much time do you have?" 1 week, Noelle said quietly. "Before eviction proceedings start." Daniel nodded, his expression turning determined. "Okay, let's figure this out." "I don't want your money," Noelle said firmly. "That's not why I let you in." "I know that," Daniel replied, his voice gentle but firm. "But I'm here now, and I want to help. Not because I pity you, but because I care about you both." The sincerity in his eyes made Noelle's resistance waver. "Let me ask you something," Daniel continued. "If the roles were reversed and I needed help, would you turn your back?" "That's different. You'd never need our help." "Everyone needs help sometimes, Noelle. Even me." Jack wheeled himself closer. "He's right, sis. Remember what Dad always said? Pride doesn't pay the bills." Noelle gave a small watery laugh. "He also said, never take what you can't repay." "So repay me," Daniel said suddenly. "Work for me." Noelle looked up in surprise. "What?" "Next step needs an executive assistant. Someone organized, detail-oriented. who can manage schedules, correspondence, and keep things running smoothly. Daniel leaned forward. The position would be remote with flexible hours. You're making this up, Noel accused. You don't need an assistant. I need one I can trust, Daniel corrected. My current assistant is moving to our West Coast office next month. I was going to start interviewing candidates next week. Noel hesitated. I don't know anything about tech. You don't need to. You'd be managing my life, not my code. Daniel smiled. And from what I've seen, you're an expert at keeping things organized against impossible odds. Jack grinned. He's got you there. The salary is double what you were making, Daniel added, plus benefits including health insurance. Noel's eyes widened. That's too generous. It's market rate for an executive position. Daniel's expression turned serious. This isn't charity, Noel. It's a job offer, one you're qualified for. She bit her lip, considering. The job would solve their financial problems, but working for Daniel would change their relationship. Would he still visit if she became his employee? Think about it, Daniel said, sensing her hesitation. Meanwhile, I can help with the immediate crisis. No loans, she insisted. Not a loan. An advance. On your salary. If you accept the job. Daniel reached for her hand. Please, Noel, let me do this. The touch of his hand on hers sent warmth through her body. She nodded slowly. Okay, but I want everything in writing. A real contract. Of course, Daniel agreed. I'll have HR send. Over the paperwork tomorrow. Jack clapped his hands together. Great. Now that that's settled, can we eat? I'm starving and that bag smells amazing. The tension broken, they moved to the small dining table. Daniel unpacked containers of fragrant Chinese food, enough to feed them for days. As they ate, Noel studied Daniel. He'd swooped in like some corporate knight in shining armor, yet there was nothing condescending in his manner. He genuinely seemed relieved to have found a solution to their problems. So, if I take this job, she began cautiously, what exactly would I be doing? Daniel explained the role in detail, managing his schedule, coordinating with different departments, handling communications. It sounded challenging but doable, especially with her organizational skills. You'd start with training from my current assistant, he finished, and we'd make accommodations for Jack's care needs. You've thought this through, she observed. Daniel looked slightly embarrassed. The truth is, I've been thinking for a while that you'd be perfect for the role. I just didn't know how to bring it up without it seeming presumptuous. After dinner, while Noel helped Jack get ready for bed, Daniel made some calls. When she returned to the living room, he was just hanging up. I spoke to the building manager, he said. Your rent is paid through next month. Noel opened her mouth to protest, but Daniel held up a hand. An advance, like we agreed. It'll be deducted from your first paycheck. Thank you, she said, the words feeling inadequate. They sat together on the couch, a comfortable silence settling between them. Noel felt lighter than she had in days. The crushing weight of impending disaster lifted. Why are you really doing all this? She asked softly. Daniel turned to look at her, his expression unguarded. Because when I'm with you and Jack, I remember what matters. For years, I've been building a company to help people like my sister, but I've been so focused on the mission that I forgot about the human connections that made it meaningful in the first place. And we remind you. Yes. He hesitated. Especially you, Noel. You carry so much on your shoulders, but you never lose your humanity, your kindness, your ability to see people, not problems. His words touched something deep inside her. For so long, she'd seen herself as just a caregiver, a sister, with obligations. Daniel saw her as something more. I'm afraid, she admitted. Of what? That you'll get tired of us, that the novelty will wear off. She looked down at her hands. That you'll realize we're just ordinary people with ordinary problems. Daniel gently tipped her chin up, making her meet his gaze. There's nothing ordinary about you, Noel Carter. The moment stretched between them, charged with unspoken feelings. Noel felt herself leaning toward him, drawn by a pull she couldn't explain. Daniel's phone rang, shattering the moment. He answered it with a frown, his CEO persona sliding back into place. I have to go, he said after a brief conversation. Emergency board meeting. Noel nodded, trying to hide her disappointment. Of course. At the door, Daniel paused. About the job. You don't have to decide right away. I want it, she said, surprising herself with her certainty. I need it, and honestly, it sounds like a good fit. Relief washed over his face. Good. That's good. He hesitated, then quickly leaned in and kissed her cheek. Before she could react, he was gone, the door closing softly behind him. Noelle touched her cheek, feeling the lingering warmth of his lips. The next morning, Noelle received an email from Next Step's HR department with her employment contract. The salary was even higher than Daniel had mentioned, with benefits that would cover all of Jack's medical needs. She signed it immediately and sent it back. By afternoon, she'd received a company laptop and phone, along with a detailed welcome package and training schedule. They don't waste time, do they? Jack commented as she unboxed the sleek equipment. Apparently not. Noelle was both excited and nervous. My training starts tomorrow, all remote. Daniel thinks of everything, Jack said with a knowing smile. So, are we going to talk about that almost kiss last night? Noelle nearly dropped the laptop. You were supposed to be asleep. I was thirsty. Came out for water and saw you two looking all moony-eyed at each other. We were not, she protested, feeling her cheeks heat up. Sure, whatever you say. Jack's expression turned serious. He's good for you, Noelle. He sees you. Before she could respond, her new work phone buzzed with a message from Daniel. How's the equipment? Training starts at 9 a.m. tomorrow with Melissa. She's expecting you, virtually. Dinner tonight? Noelle typed back. Equipment perfect, will be. Ready for training. Dinner sounds good. 3 dots appeared immediately. Great, there's something important I need to discuss with you. Noelle felt a flutter of anxiety. Was he already regretting the job offer? The evening seemed to take forever to arrive. Noelle changed clothes twice, settling on jeans and a soft blue sweater that Jack said brought out her eyes. When Daniel arrived, he was carrying grocery bags instead of takeout. I thought I'd cook tonight, he explained, heading straight for the kitchen. Noelle followed, curious. I didn't know you could cook. There's a lot you don't know about me, he said with a smile, but that's changing. As Daniel moved around the small kitchen, chopping vegetables and seasoning chicken for a stir-fry, Noelle watched him with growing wonder. He seemed so at ease in their modest apartment, so different from the powerful CEO she'd first met. Jack joined them, parking his wheelchair at the kitchen entrance. Smells amazing. Where'd you learn to cook like that? My mom, Daniel answered. After Lily got sick, we took turns making meals. Dad wasn't around much by then. Our mom was a terrible cook, Jack laughed. Dad did all the cooking. Hey, her cookies were great, Noelle defended. True, everything else was a disaster. They shared memories over dinner, the conversation flowing easily. Noelle noticed that Daniel seemed more relaxed than usual, but also slightly nervous, as if something was on his mind. After they'd eaten and cleaned up, Jack announced he was tired and wanted to watch a movie in his room. Subtle, Jack, Noelle muttered as she helped him settle in. Just giving you two some privacy, he whispered back. Don't mess it up, When she returned to the living room, Daniel was standing by the window again, his favorite thinking spot. So, she said, joining him, you mentioned there was something important to discuss? Daniel turned to face her. Yes, it's about the job. Noelle felt her stomach drop. You've changed your mind. No, nothing like that. He ran a hand through his hair. It's about the logistics. You start tomorrow and I realize something might be complicated. What's that? Us, he said simply. Whatever is happening between us. Noelle swallowed. I'm not sure what you mean. Daniel stepped closer. I think you do. There's something here, Noelle. I feel it every time I'm with you. Her heart raced. I'm going to be your employee. That's why we need to talk about it now. His expression was earnest. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable or pressured. Your job is secure regardless of anything else. And what is anything else? She asked quietly. Daniel took a deep breath. I'm falling for you, Noelle. I have been since that first night I showed up with your groceries. The confession hung in the air between them. Noelle felt dizzy with the implications. This is crazy, she whispered. We barely know each other, don't we? Daniel challenged gently. I know you're fiercely loyal, incredibly strong, and braver than anyone I've ever met. I know you laugh at Jack's terrible jokes even when you're exhausted. I know you read mystery novels to unwind and drink your coffee with too much sugar. Noelle blinked in surprise. He had been paying attention to the smallest details of her life. And you know me, he continued, not CEO Daniel Reeve, but just Daniel, the real me that I've hidden away for years. I'm scared, she admitted. Everything's happening so fast. The job and now this. Daniel reached for her hand. I know, and we can take it as slow as you need. I just wanted to be honest before you officially started working for me. What about company policy? Won't this be a problem? I'm the CEO, he said with a small smile. But more importantly, you'll be reporting to the COO, not directly to me. There's no conflict. Noelle looked at their joined hands. So what happens now? That's up to you, Daniel said. But I'd like to keep visiting, keep getting to know you. And maybe someday. He left the sentence unfinished, but his meaning was clear. Noelle felt something unfurl in her chest. Hope, possibility, a future she hadn't dared imagine. I'd like that, she whispered. Daniel's smile lit up his whole face. Slowly, giving her time to pull away, he leaned forward. This time, there was no interruption as his lips found hers in a gentle, questioning kiss. Noelle responded, her free hand coming up to rest on his shoulder. The kiss was brief but perfect, a promise of something new beginning. When they separated, Daniel rested his forehead against hers. I should go. You have a big day tomorrow. She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. At the door, he turned back. One more thing. I know Jack has doctor appointments next week. I've arranged for a private nurse to help on those days. Daniel, that's too much. It's a company benefit, he insisted, for all employees with caregiving responsibilities. Is that true? His smile turned sheepish. It is now. After he left, Noelle touched her lips, still feeling the warmth of his kiss. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a different future, one where she wasn't alone in carrying the weight of the world. From the hallway, Jack's voice called out, Did he kiss you? None of your business, she called back, laughing. About time, came the satisfied reply. Noelle started her new job the next morning, diving into training with Daniel's current assistant, Melissa. The work was challenging but interesting, and Melissa was impressively thorough. You'll be great at this, Melissa assured her after the first day. Daniel speaks very highly of you. Noelle wondered exactly what Daniel had said about her, but didn't ask. The following weeks settled into a new rhythm. Noelle worked from home, managing Daniel's complex schedule and acting as gatekeeper to the many demands on his time. The flexible hours allowed her to care for Jack while earning more than enough to cover their needs. Daniel continued his visits, now sometimes during lunch breaks. Their relationship grew slowly, cautiously, both aware of the professional boundaries they needed to maintain. 1 month into her new job, Noelle received an unexpected email from Next Step's housing coordinator. Dear Miss Carter, we're pleased to inform you that an accessible apartment has become available in the Next Step employee housing complex. As per Mr. Reeve's executive initiative, employees with family caregiving responsibilities receive priority consideration. Please find the details attached. Noelle stared at the message in shock. The attached photos showed a beautiful, fully accessible apartment with wide doorways, a roll-in shower, and adaptive features that would make Jack's life infinitely easier. The rent was listed as a percentage of her salary, affordable even with her other expenses. She immediately called Daniel. Did you do this? She demanded when he answered. Do what? He asked, but she could hear the smile in his voice. The apartment. The executive initiative. Actually, that was inspired by you, but it's a legitimate company policy now. We have several employees with caregiving responsibilities. Daniel paused. But yes, I made sure you were first on the list. Noelle didn't know whether to be annoyed at his intervention or grateful for the opportunity. You should at least look at it, Daniel suggested. It's 10 minutes from the office. Trying to get me to come into work, she teased. trying to make your life easier, he countered, and selfishly, hoping to see you more often. Noelle found herself smiling. I'll think about it. That evening, she showed the listing to Jack. We have to take it, he said immediately, eyes wide as he scrolled through the photos. Noelle, look at that bathroom. I could actually shower without you having to lift me. His excitement was contagious. You wouldn't mind moving? Are you kidding? This place is falling apart, and the neighborhood isn't exactly wheelchair-friendly. Jack looked at her knowingly. Plus, you'd be closer to Daniel. This isn't about Daniel, she insisted, isn't it? At least partly. Jack wasn't accusatory, just honest. He's good for you, Noelle, and I think we're good for him too. Noelle couldn't argue with that. In the weeks since she'd started working for Next Step, she'd seen a different side of Daniel. At the office, during her few visits, he was respected but also genuinely liked. His passion for helping people wasn't just talk. It infused everything the company did, and with them, he was simply Daniel, a man learning to open his heart again after years of grief and isolation. If we move, she said slowly, things will change. Things have already changed, Jack pointed out, but this time it's for the better. The next day, Noelle arranged to tour the apartment. It was even more perfect in person, bright, spacious, with views of the city and all the adaptive features Jack could need. As she stood in what would be the living room, she imagined a new life here. Jack with more independence, herself with a career she enjoyed, and Daniel becoming an increasingly important part of their world. That night, after Jack had gone to bed, she sat alone in their cramped living room, thinking. Her phone buzzed, with a text from Daniel. What did you think of the apartment? She typed back. It's perfect, too perfect. Why are you doing all this for us? His response came quickly. Because I love you both. I should have said it sooner. Noelle stared at the words, her heart pounding. She'd been falling for him too, but neither had spoken those words yet. She called him immediately. You can't just text something like that, she said when he answered. I know, he replied. I'm standing outside your door. Can I come in? Noelle rushed to open the door. Daniel stood there, phone still in hand, looking nervous but determined. I mean it, he said before she could speak. I love you, Noelle. You and Jack have become the family I thought I'd never have again. Tears filled her eyes. Daniel, you don't have to say it back, he rushed on. I know it's fast, but I needed you to know before you decided about the apartment. This isn't about work or charity. It's because I want you in my life, both of you. Noelle pulled him inside and closed the door. You're right that it's fast. Everything with you has been a whirlwind. She took a deep breath. But I love you too. I think I have since you showed up with those groceries. Daniel's face lit up with joy. He pulled her into his arms, kissing her with all the emotion they'd been carefully containing for weeks. When they finally separated, Noelle rested her head on his shoulder. We'll take the apartment. Really? Daniel pulled back to look at her. Really? It's the right move for Jack, and for us. Daniel kissed her again, softer this time. I promise you won't regret it. As they stood in the small apartment that had been their life for so long, Noelle felt no regrets, only excitement for the future unfolding before them. What had begun with a mistyped email had become something neither of them could have imagined, a second chance at family, at love, at life itself. What she didn't know was that the journey ahead would test that love in ways neither of them could anticipate, as the past Daniel had tried to escape came rushing back to confront them both. The next 3 weeks passed in a whirlwind of activity. Noelle and Jack packed up their small apartment while preparing for the move to the Next Step employee housing complex. After years of living on the edge, the sudden positive change in their circumstances still felt dreamlike to Noelle. Is this the last box? Daniel asked, taping up a carton labeled kitchen. For this room, Noelle replied, wiping sweat from her forehead. I didn't realize we had so much stuff. Jack wheeled into the kitchen, a plastic bag of odds and ends in his lap. Found more junk in my closet. Where do you want it? Donation pile, Noelle decided. We're starting fresh, remember? Daniel watched the siblings with a smile. In the month since Noel had accepted the job at Next Step, he'd witnessed a transformation in both of them. Jack seemed more animated, excited about the accessible features of their new apartment. And Noel, she stood taller, the constant worry lines on her forehead softening. "The moving truck will be here tomorrow at 9, Daniel reminded them, checking his watch. "We should grab some dinner before the restaurant closes." They had fallen into a comfortable routine of shared meals and quiet evenings. Daniel spent most nights at his own apartment, but their relationship had deepened steadily. Noel was still adjusting to having someone to lean on after years of carrying every burden alone. Later that night, after dinner at their favorite local restaurant, Daniel helped Jack get ready for bed while Noel finished packing the bathroom. "He's asleep," Daniel reported, joining her. "Big day tomorrow." Noel nodded, suddenly emotional. "I can't believe we're really doing this." "Having second thoughts?" Daniel asked, concern crossing his face. "No," she assured him. "Just overwhelmed. 3 months ago I was drowning, and now—" She gestured around them. "Everything's changing." Daniel wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Good changes, I hope." She leaned back against him. "The best. But sometimes I worry it's too perfect, like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop." Daniel's body tensed slightly, a reaction so subtle Noel might have missed it if she hadn't been in his arms. She turned to face him. "What is it?" "Nothing," he said, but his eyes didn't meet hers. "Daniel," she said firmly, "we promised honesty, remember?" He sighed, leading her to the couch, the only furniture not yet packed. "There's something I need to tell you. I was going to wait until after the move, but—" A knot formed in Noel's stomach. "You're scaring me." Daniel took her hands in his. "It's about Next Step. There's been some trouble." "What kind of trouble?" "A competing company, Meditech, is claiming patent infringement on our newest exoskeleton." "Design." His jaw tightened. "It's not true. We developed our technology independently, but they're threatening a lawsuit." "Can they do that? Just make false claims? They have expensive lawyers and deep pockets," Daniel said grimly. "And their CEO, Victor Harmon, has a personal vendetta against me." "Why?" Daniel's expression darkened. "We were partners once, years ago, in my first startup. He wanted to take the company in a direction I couldn't support, cutting corners on medical equipment to maximize profits. When I refused, things got ugly. What happened? I left and started Next Step. Some of our best engineers came with me." Daniel ran a hand through his hair. "Victor never forgave me. He's been trying to undermine Next Step for years. But this is his most aggressive move yet." Noel squeezed his hands. "What does this mean for the company, for us?" "The company will be fine," Daniel assured her. "We have documentation proving our design is original, but it will mean a legal battle. And I'll be distracted." The timing couldn't be worse, with the new housing complex opening and our personal plans. "Hey," Noel said softly. "We'll handle it together. That's what partners do, right?" Daniel's face softened. "Right. No more keeping worries to yourself," she admonished gently. "That's my bad habit." He smiled and kissed her. "Noted." The next morning, the moving truck arrived and the real work began. By afternoon, they were settling into their new apartment at the Next Step complex. The difference from their old place was stark. Spacious rooms, wide doorways for Jack's wheelchair, a fully adapted bathroom, and a kitchen with lowered countertops so Jack could help with meals. "This is incredible," Jack said, wheeling himself around the open concept living area. "I can actually reach things." Noel watched her brother exploring his new home with tears in her eyes. For so long, she'd wanted to give him a better environment, one that didn't constantly remind him of his limitations. "Happy?" Daniel asked, coming to stand beside her. "Beyond words," she replied, leaning against him. The apartment complex housed several Next Step employees and their families, including others with disabilities. The community feeling was immediate. Neighbors stopped by with welcome baskets, and Jack was already making friends with a teenager down the hall who also had muscular dystrophy. That evening, after a full day of unpacking, Daniel received a call that pulled him away to the office. "Emergency board meeting," he explained, kissing Noel goodbye. "The Meditech situation. Don't wait up." Alone with Jack in their new apartment, Noelle continued unpacking boxes in the living room while her brother arranged his books and games. In his bedroom. "Noelle," Jack called suddenly. "Can you come here?" Something in his voice made her hurry to his room. "What's wrong?" Jack was holding a small velvet box. "I found this in a bag of stuff Daniel brought over. It fell out of his jacket pocket." Noelle's heart skipped a beat. "Jack, put that away, it's private." "Aren't you curious?" Jack's eyes were wide. "It looks like a ring box." "All the more reason not to snoop," she said firmly, taking it from him and slipping it into her pocket. "I'll give it back to Daniel tomorrow." Jack rolled his eyes. "You're no fun. Don't you want to know if he's planning to propose?" The thought sent butterflies through Noelle's stomach. "If he is, I want him to do it his way, in his time." "You'd say yes, right?" Jack asked, suddenly serious. Noelle sat on the edge of his bed. "We've only known him for 3 months, Jack. So, when it's right, it's right." Jack looked at her intently. "He makes you happy. He sees you, not just as my caregiver, but as Noelle. And he's good to both of us." "Yes," she admitted softly. "I would say yes." Later that night, lying in her new bedroom, Noelle couldn't sleep. The velvet box sat on her nightstand, tempting her. Part of her wanted to peek to confirm what Jack suspected. Another part wanted to preserve the surprise, if that's what Daniel intended. Her phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. "Meeting running late. Everything okay there?" She replied, "All good. Jack's already asleep. The apartment feels like home." "Already?" After a moment's hesitation, she added, "Found something of yours that fell out of your jacket. Small velvet box. I didn't open it." There was a long pause before his response. "We need to talk about that tomorrow." Noelle's stomach fluttered. Was it a ring? Was Daniel planning to propose? The next morning, she woke to find Daniel in the kitchen making breakfast. He'd let himself in with the key she'd given him the day before. "Good morning," he said, kissing her. "Jack's still sleeping. I checked on him." Noelle reached into her robe pocket and pulled out the velvet box. "You wanted to talk about this." Daniel took the box, his expression unreadable. "I did." "If it's what I think it is," Noelle said carefully, "isn't it a little soon?" Daniel opened the box, revealing not a ring, but a pair of antique silver cufflinks. "These were my father's. I was going to wear them to the Next Step Foundation gala next week." He smiled at her confusion. "Were you expecting something else?" Noelle felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment. We thought... Daniel's smile widened. "A ring." He closed the cufflink box and set it aside, then reached into his other pocket. "That's in a different box." Noelle's heart stopped as he pulled out a small red velvet box. "I was going to do this at the gala," he said, softly, "but maybe this is better. Just us in our home." "Daniel," she whispered. He took her hand. "I know it's fast. I know some people will say we're rushing, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life." He opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant diamond ring. "I love you, Noelle. You and Jack have become my family. Will you marry me?" Tears filled Noelle's eyes. "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Yes." Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into a kiss that promised a lifetime of happiness. "I have one condition," Noelle said when they separated. "Jack is part of this package deal always." "I wouldn't have it any other way," Daniel assured her. "He's the brother I never had." They were interrupted by the sound of Jack's wheelchair in the hallway. "Did I hear what I think I heard?" he called. "Did she say yes?" Daniel laughed. "She did." Jack wheeled into the kitchen, his face split by a wide grin. "About time. Can I be best man?" "Absolutely," Daniel confirmed, still holding Noelle's hand. The three of them shared breakfast, talking excitedly about the future. For the first time in years, Noelle allowed herself to believe in happy endings, but life rarely follows a straight path to happiness. 3 days later, Daniel was working late again at the Next Step offices. The Meditech lawsuit was gaining traction, and the company's lawyers were preparing their defense. Noelle was at home with Jack when her phone rang. The caller ID showed Melissa, Daniel's former assistant, who'd been promoted to operations manager. "Noelle?" Is Daniel with you? Melissa's voice was tense. No, he's still at the office, isn't he? He left hours ago. He's not answering his phone. A flicker of worry sparked in Noel's chest. Maybe he turned it off? He mentioned stopping by his apartment to pick up some files. Can you try reaching him? It's urgent, the worry grew. What's happened? Meditech just announced a hostile takeover attempt. They're making a play for Next Step's investors. We need Daniel here now. Noel called Daniel immediately, but the call went straight to voicemail. She tried 3 more times with the same result. Jack, I need to go look for Daniel, she told her brother. Will you be okay alone for a bit? Go, Jack urged. I've got the emergency button if I need anything. Noel grabbed her keys and purse, the engagement ring gleaming on her finger as a reminder of everything at stake. She drove first to Daniel's apartment, using the key he'd given her. The place was empty, with no sign he'd been there recently. Growing more concerned, she headed to the Next Step offices. In the lobby, she found Melissa pacing anxiously. Still no word? Noel asked. Melissa shook her head. This isn't like him, especially with everything that's happening. What exactly is going on with Meditech? Melissa led her to a private conference room. Victor Harmon has been meeting secretly with our major investors, claiming our technology is stolen, and the company is about to face massive legal penalties. He's offering them a way out. Sell their shares to Meditech before the stock plummets. That's outrageous, Noel gasped. It's not true. We know that, but some investors are getting nervous. We need Daniel to reassure them. Noel's phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? She answered hopefully. Is this Noel Carter? An unfamiliar male voice. Yes. Who's this? Miss Carter, this is Dr. Ramirez at Memorial Hospital. Daniel Reeve was brought in about an hour ago. You're listed as his emergency contact. Noel's blood ran cold. What happened? Is he okay? He was in a car accident. His condition is stable, but he's asking for you. I'll be right there, Noel said, ending the call and turning to Melissa. Daniel's in the hospital, car accident. Go, Melissa urged. I'll handle things here. At Memorial Hospital, Noel rushed to the emergency department. The nurse directed her to a curtained area where she found Daniel lying on a bed, a bandage around his head and his left arm in a sling. Daniel! She hurried to his side. Noel, he said, relief washing over his face. I'm okay, just a minor accident. Minor? She gestured to his injuries. What happened? I was driving back to the office when a car ran a red light and hit me. He winced as he tried to sit up. My phone was destroyed in the crash. Noel helped him adjust his position. The doctors say you're stable? Concussion, dislocated shoulder, and some cuts and bruises. I'll be fine. His expression turned serious. But there's something else. The accident wasn't random, Noel. What do you mean? Daniel lowered his voice. The driver worked for Meditech. Before he fled the scene, he said, Victor sends his regards. Noel's eyes widened. Are you saying Victor Harmon tried to have you killed? Maybe not killed, but definitely warned. Daniel's face hardened. He's making his move while I'm out of commission. The investors' meeting is tomorrow morning, Melissa told me. They're trying to contact everyone, but without you there, I need to get out of here, Daniel said, attempting to stand. Absolutely not. Noel pushed him gently back onto the bed. You have a concussion. Noel, everything I've built is at stake. Not just the company, but the foundation, the housing complex, everything that helps people like Jack and my sister. Noel thought quickly. What if I go? I have all your files, all the documentation proving the technology is original. The investors don't know you, Daniel pointed out. Then introduce me. Noel pulled out her phone. We'll video call into the meeting. You can speak directly to them. Daniel hesitated. It's risky. So is letting Victor Harmon steal your company, she countered. I've been managing your communications for over a month. I know this situation inside and out. A slow smile spread across Daniel's face. You're remarkable, you know that? Save the compliments for after we save Next Step, she replied, already texting Melissa the plan. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. Noel stayed at the hospital while Daniel was admitted for observation. Together, they prepared for the investors' meeting, reviewing documents and practicing what they would say. By morning, Noelle was exhausted but determined. She left Daniel resting and drove to the Next Step offices, where the boardroom was already filling with anxious investors. As she entered, she spotted a tall, distinguished man she recognized from news photos, Victor Harmon, CEO of Meditech. He looked surprised to see her. "Who are you?" he demanded. "Noelle Carter, Mr. Reeves' executive assistant," she replied coolly. "Mr. Reeve will be joining us virtually." Victor scoffed. "How convenient. Too afraid to face us in person." "Mr. Reeve was in a car accident yesterday," Noelle announced to the room. "An accident involving a driver who works for Meditech." Murmurs rippled through the investors. "Ridiculous accusation," Victor snapped. "We have the police report," Noelle countered, placing a folder on the table. "And witnesses." Before Victor could respond, Melissa set up the video call. Daniel's face appeared on the large screen at the end of the room, his injuries visible to everyone. "Ladies and gentlemen," Daniel began, "thank you for coming. As you can see, I've had a minor setback, but I wanted to address the accusations made by Mr. Harmon directly." For the next 30 minutes, Daniel meticulously dismantled Meditech's claims, with Noelle providing the documentation to back up each point. They showed the original design sketches, dated and notarized. They presented statements from the engineers confirming the technology was developed in-house. Furthermore, Noelle added, "We have evidence that Meditech has been engaging in corporate espionage." Victor's face paled. "That's a lie." Noelle slid another folder across the table. "These are emails between Mr. Harmon and a former Next Step employee who was terminated for stealing company secrets. They detail Meditech's plans to replicate our technology." One of the investors opened the folder, his eyebrows rising as he read. "Where did you get those?" Victor demanded. "The former employee had a crisis of conscience," Daniel explained from the screen. "He came to us last week, which is why you accelerated your timeline, isn't it, Victor?" The room fell silent as all eyes turned to Victor Harmon. "This is a setup," he blustered. "These documents could be fabricated. The originals have been provided to the SEC," Noelle informed the room, "along with evidence of stock manipulation by Meditech executives." Victor stood abruptly. "This meeting is over." "I believe that's for the investors to decide," Daniel said calmly. One by one, the investors voiced their continued support for Next Step and Daniel's leadership. Victor Harmon stormed out, his takeover attempt in ruins. When the meeting concluded, Noelle returned to the hospital, exhausted but triumphant. "We did it," she told Daniel, collapsing into the chair beside his bed. "Meditech is backing off, the investors are staying." Daniel reached for her hand. "You saved Next Step, Noelle." "We saved it together," she corrected. The doctor entered with discharge papers. "Mr. Reeve, you're free to go. Just take it easy for a few days." Back at the apartment, Jack was waiting anxiously for news. "So the bad guy lost?" he asked after they explained everything. "For now," Daniel nodded. "Victor Harmon won't give up easily, but we've bought ourselves time and kept the investors' confidence." Noelle helped Daniel settle on the couch, adjusting pillows to support his injured shoulder. The events of the past 2 days had been a stark reminder of how quickly life could change. "When I got that call from the hospital," she said quietly, "I was so scared. All I could think was that I couldn't lose you now, not when we've just found each other." Daniel pulled her close with his good arm. "You won't lose me, I promise." Jack wheeled over to join them. "So the wedding's still on, right?" Daniel laughed. "Absolutely, though I might need help with the tux if my arm's still in this sling." "I've got your back," Jack assured him. "That's what brothers do." Noelle looked at the 2 men in her life, her brother, who had faced every challenge with courage and humor, and Daniel, who had entered their lives by chance and stayed by choice. Her heart felt full to bursting. 6 months later, Noelle stood in a small garden at the Next Step Foundation building, wearing a simple white dress. Jack, handsome in his tuxedo, sat beside her in a new motorized wheelchair, a wedding gift from Daniel. "Ready?" Jack asked, offering his arm as best he could. "More than ready," Noelle replied, taking his arm and walking slowly beside him down the aisle toward Daniel, who waited with a smile that outshone the sun. The ceremony was small, just close friends and colleagues. Melissa stood as Noelle's maid of honor, while Jack proudly served as best man. the ring secured to a special holder on his wheelchair. As they exchanged vows, Noel thought about the unlikely chain of events that had brought them together. Mistyped email, a grocery list, a simple act of kindness that had changed everything. "I, Daniel, take you, Noel, to be my wife," Daniel said, his voice strong and sure. "I promise to stand by you and Jack, to face whatever challenges come our way together, and to never take for granted the miracle that brought you into my life. Noel." Blinked back tears as she made her own vows. "I, Noel, take you, Daniel, to be my husband. I promise to be your partner in all things, to remind you of what truly matters when work gets overwhelming, and to love you with the same courage and honesty you've shown us." When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, the small gathering erupted in applause. Jack whooped the loudest, spinning his wheelchair in celebration. At the reception, Daniel pulled Noel aside for a moment of quiet. "Happy?" he asked, echoing the question he'd asked the day they moved into the apartment. "Beyond words," she replied, just as she had then. "I have something for you," Daniel said, producing an envelope. "A wedding gift." Noel opened it to find papers for a new charitable foundation, the Lily and Jack Foundation for Families with Muscular Disorders. "Daniel," she breathed, scanning the documents, "this is incredible. I want to help more families like ours," he explained, "and I want you to run it if you're interested." "Me? But I'm not qualified." "You're more qualified than anyone," Daniel interrupted gently. "You've lived it. You know what these families need better than any expert." Noel looked across the room at Jack, who was chatting animatedly with a group of Next Step engineers about their latest designs. "He's thriving," she observed. "For so long I was just trying to keep him alive. Now he's actually living. So are you," Daniel pointed out. "And this foundation could help other caregivers find that same balance." Noel kissed him deeply. "Thank you. For everything." "Thank you," he countered, "for sending me that grocery list." From across the room, Jack called out, "Hey, lovebirds, they're cutting the cake without you." Hand in hand, Noel and Daniel rejoined their guests. As she looked around at the faces of their newfound family, colleagues who had become friends, neighbors from the housing complex, Jack beaming with pride, Noel felt a sense of peace she'd never known before. Life would still have challenges. Victor Harmon remained a potential threat. Jack's condition would continue to progress. The foundation would demand time and energy, but for the first time, Noel wasn't facing the future alone. That evening, as they prepared to leave for their honeymoon, Noel pulled Daniel aside one last time. "Are you sure Jack will be okay without us for 2 weeks?" she asked, the old worry resurfacing. "Positive," Daniel assured her. "The nurse knows his routine, the apartment is fully accessible, and Melissa promised to check in daily. And you've got the emergency numbers programmed into your new phone?" Daniel smiled indulgently. "All 7 of them." Noel took a deep breath. "Okay, I'm ready." As they said their goodbyes, Jack pulled Noel down for a hug. "Stop worrying," he whispered. "Go be happy. You've earned it." "I love you," she told him fiercely. "Love you too, sis." Jack grinned. "Now get out of here before you miss your flight." In the car, Daniel took Noel's hand. "New chapter begins." She nodded, watching the Next Step building recede in the rearview mirror. "I never thought I'd have this," she admitted. "A career I love, financial security, a husband, and all because of a grocery list," Daniel finished, bringing her hand to his lips. "Not just the list," Noel corrected. "What you did with it. You could have deleted that email, but instead you showed up at our door." "Best decision I ever made," Daniel said simply. As they drove toward the airport and their honeymoon in Hawaii, Noel thought about all the items that had been on that original grocery list. Such simple things: eggs, rice, apples, almond milk, adult diapers, chocolate, candles, ordinary items that had led to an extraordinary love. She'd been just trying to survive then, to keep things together by a thread. Now she was thriving, building a future filled with purpose and love. And it had. All started with everything on her list. The end.